He's 7 feet and 265 pounds of basketball talent. Chris Kaman is in his 6th season as a center for the NBA's Los Angeles Clippers. His gifts as a player have earned him millions of dollars, but his proudest accomplishment the past 2 years comes from what he's learned about how he learns. That's where neuropsychologist Dr. Tim Royer comes in. It's Royer's work studying tens of thousands of brains during his career that led he and a colleague to start a company called Hope 139.
The thing that just became more and more obvious as we were studying these brains is no two brains are alike. They've been created in such a special, unique way that each one has its own strengths and weaknesses that are like no other that's ever existed in all of human history. And rather than putting people into these boxes, the more brains I saw, the more I realized we're doing a disservice to these individuals by putting them in these 3 or 4 boxes.
Dr. Royer and his team use techniques such as neurofeedback to help assess how a person's brain is functioning. In Chris's case, he was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder when he was 2.5.
It was 2.5. I went into a doctor, tested me within 10 to 15 minutes. He's like, boom, you got ADD, you need to be on Ritalin, your child needs to be on Ritalin, something, we need to get him on medication, he's out of control. And it had always been hard for my mom, my dad. I mean, right, even from when I started to walk, I was just all over the place. They had to keep an eye on me all the time, sticking my fingers and light plugs, sockets, mess with the light bulbs, always just stuff that my parents were trying to get me away from, and they just couldn't do it. They had to child-proof everything, double time, and they're like, we got to get him tested. So 2.5, I get tested, man. I'm barely talking, at 2.5, but, just real wild.
Throughout his childhood, Chris was on Ritalin to control his ADD. By the time he reached high school, he went off the medication for a few years, only to return to a different medication after seeing a different doctor. All the while, Chris's fallback was his talent and size as a basketball player. In spite of his focus and attention troubles, Chris flourished during a college career at Central Michigan, then realized a dream he'd had since he was 5, to be drafted into the NBA.
And then one day they call your name and you're just, everything changes, like in a flash. It was amazing, and at the same time it was so stressed out, like waiting there, like biting your nails. When are they going to call your name? Then boom, it's like my agent got the call, hey, they're going to pick you next, ready to go.
But Chris soon found out his basketball skills could only take him so far. Now he was competing against the best players in the world. And to succeed, it commanded his full attention, something he couldn't always give.
A lot of times I'll be in a huddle, and my coach likes to draw a couple plays up before we go out of the huddle. This is my example I use all the time because it's the most easily recognizable for me. And he would draw up a couple plays, and literally you could count to 5. We leave the huddle, count to 5 more. I forgot the plays, like that quick.
That's when hope arrived. In the summer of 2007, Kaman met Dr. Royer, who's from the same hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Royer and his team used neurofeedback to first assess Chris's brain, then train him to function within self-controlled measurements.
All these different brain waves that are going through Chris's brain, there's 6 of them in here. They're completely unique to Chris. There's nobody from the beginning of time till the end of time that will have the same brainwave configuration as Chris. The patterns that we're looking for is to see if the brain is running too slow or if the brain is running too fast. We know the brain is running too slow if this number is greater than 3.0. When it's greater than 3.0, we know that the brain is engaging in too much theta activity. When we first hooked Chris up, we expected this number to be up in the 4 range because he had this long history of being diagnosed with ADD and then being put on all these medicines. When we hooked Chris up, we immediately saw he doesn't have a theta wave problem. There's no reason in the world that you should ever put him on stimulants. The area that we did need to work on was not the brain running too slow, but the brain running too fast. And that's called high beta activity. That's this yellow line that you see here. And when the brain runs too fast, it's over-focusing on things and it becomes very anxious and tense. When we first started working with Chris, this number right here was a 2.8, and the clinically significant range is anything around 1.4, 1.5 or higher. And Chris has done a ton of work to bring this down. And as this came down, the tension went away, the impulsivity went away, all the things that people thought were ADD, which were the brain running too fast, immediately got better as these numbers came down.
Families with special needs children are always seeking answers. Oftentimes, they become nearly desperate to find them. The story of Chris Kamen and Hope 139 is just one story of success, of a therapy that worked for him. It's Chris's dream that by using his platform as an NBA star, there will be many more stories of hope in the years to come.